This program contains explicit language. Parental guidance is suggested.
I'm here for murder, kidnapping, robbery, armed robbery, conspiracy. When we got sexual desires, who do you think we get? And don't tell me each other.
See, because I don't like nothing in the first place, and I don't like you.
You got your best shot, man. One punch. Punch me in my face. Then it's my turn. Now punch.
Man, get that fucking camera out my face. I told you to cut it off.
Welcome, students, to another fabulous episode of Manhood Academy Debates. Today we have with us Psychological Cynic. You're from the Men Going Their Own Way movement, or you identify as a Men Going Their Own Way MGTOW person. We just recently put out a video criticizing the Men Going Their Own Way movement. We called out all the keyboard warrior faggots in that movement, and we wanted them to have a debate with us because their views are just delusional, childish, and they really damage and really, not just disillusion, but they really misguide and mislead a lot of men who are disillusioned, who don't know how to have relationships with women, who are suffering in the feminist legal system, and any other kind of bullshit you can think of that's kind of like a side effect of feminism. And so there's different groups that men are gravitating to. For example, MRAs, men's rights activists, feminists, and just so men going their own way, MGTOW, or just happens to be one of those movements or ideologies where men are gravitating around or towards. So we wanted to call these guys out and talk about the problems and why they're even in these various movements and why these movements fail. What are the weaknesses of these movements, and especially in this case, the Men Going Their Own Way movement. You posted something on here accepting our challenge topics you have on here. Well, if you want to just talk about the things that you posted and we can go over it, let's do it. Oh, by the way, before we start, as you know, we don't have a moderator. We typically have a moderator because so many of our critics are faggot cowards, and they say that I talk over them, and they get butthurt, and they say, well, this is why you can't debate them. They talk over you. This is why we started having the moderator, so these faggot cowards couldn't make that accusation against us. But you have agreed to debate without the moderator under the condition you won't complain like a little bitch like our past opponents have done when they've been in debates with us and said, oh, the professor's talking over me. As we always say, look, I don't care if it takes all year. We'll let you have your say. We'll let you make all your points. If I interrupt you, you're probably going to interrupt me, and vice versa. It's going to go back and forth, as a conversation should, but at no time should one party overpower the other. At no time should I be able to censor you during a debate. So that's why we have the moderator officially. But as you've agreed, we don't have a moderator. We're just going to try to police our own behavior, police ourselves, so to speak. So you're agreeing you're not going to complain like a little bitch, as our past critics have done. You're perfectly okay with not having a moderator. And please inform the other scared faggot keyboard wearers out there that they shouldn't complain either because you agreed to this.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree to this of my own beliefs that we can act like mature adults who are capable of holding a conversation.
Perfectly fine with me. I agree to that. I think all debates should run that way. And it shouldn't even be we shouldn't even need this formal structure of a debate. We should just be able to have a disagreement, discuss it, say what we believe and don't believe, what we think and don't think, and be able to disagree and not have, to have an official so-called formal debating process so that we can't even have this discussion in the first place. I mean, we have so many faggot cowards out there who want to debate us but say, oh, we need to have Queensberry rules and we're going to give 5-minute speeches. It ends up not being a debate. We can't even have the free back and forth. They just want to give fucking speeches. A speech, you give a speech, I give a speech, and then we close with a speech. Utter fucking bullshit.
Yeah, before we start, can I address that? Because that is something that always did bother me. I mean, the fallacies, yeah, there are fallacies, but when you try to just say everything the other person says is a fallacy of this degree or that degree, I hate that. I really do. Because, there are things that are said that should be addressed within them.
Yeah, there's definitely, somebody will make a point, and then you want to debate that point, but they're not done giving their 10-minute speech. So even when you go back to dispute each individual point, the audience is already lost. You should be able to speak and talk about something, a point you're making, and then the party can jump in if they disagree or don't disagree. That's the point of the debate, to have the challenge there to the view before you run off on that assumption and make 20 other assumptions based on a faulty initial assumption. If you address the initial assumptions, all those other problems kind of get addressed in the process. But the fact that, people are so fucking timid and can't even put their views out there, that's why we have these keyboard warriors in the first place. That's what appeals. That's what draws keyboard warriors, is they don't have to be accountable for their views. They don't want to have their views tested or critiqued, and they just have this delusional cave they live in where they get no outside feedback. And that's what we discourage here at the Academy. We want the public scrutiny. We want you examining our views to see if they're even valid, because We want you to live by our views. We want you to base your life on our views. We want you to base your life on the principles that we've discovered, not simply an opinion that we have as a group. Like, if we just have the Manhood Academy opinion and it doesn't apply to you, why should you adopt it? Why should you listen to us? And that's exactly why we need the scrutiny to say, is this view valid for all men or just you delusional cultists out there in Manhood Academy? That's why we have these debates.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to it.
All right. So the first one was feminism versus MGTOW, the differences and the similarities.
Okay, MGTOW, is that the kind of shorthand pronunciation of men going their own way, the acronym MGTOW?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, I will admit to the fear-based stuff that a lot of feminists are always going on about how men could rape women, and that's, walking at night. I need feminism because I'm afraid to walk home at night and whatnot. And the same could be said for men being afraid of being falsely accused of rape. The difference between those two is that society does not condone or doesn't belittle the dangers that women face so much as they do the ones that men face.
Right. So you're saying that society, or feminist society, focuses on women being victims of rape versus men being victims of false accusations of rape.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why are you bringing that up? What's the point?
The main differences between feminism and MGTOW, which is one thing that a lot of people like to say, is that the two are very similar, just the different ends of the gender spectrum.
Oh, gotcha. Well, we're not disputing that claim about false rape accusations or feminists worried about being raped by men. We're saying that you guys are similar in your view in that.
Walt versus Amalt?
No, you guys have the view which feminists espouse, which is that gender, or the concept of masculinity, is completely open to interpretation. It's whatever you think it is. So if you think masculinity is hugging your cat, then you're masculine. If you think masculinity is getting into a gay relationship, then you're masculine. If you think masculinity is talking with a lisp, then you're masculine. If you think masculinity is fighting bears, it doesn't matter what you think. Just as long as you hold that view, it's a valid view of masculinity. That's the exact same view that feminists espouse.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at now. The whole, you make your own path, you determine for yourself what's masculine, feminine,
right,
etc., etc. Okay, I can explain that bit, because I am also not really a follower of that, but it's more or less, is there any really objective way to look at masculinity versus femininity?
Yes, that's exactly what we do here. Yes, there is an objective way to look at masculinity, and that's what we're saying. We are teaching men how to look at masculinity in an objective way, not in a subjective female way, just according to how you feel. And that is exactly the problem with men going their own way. They espouse this philosophy of, it's just like pagans or liberals. They say, what's the philosophy of paganism? I'm not sure. Paganism or Wiccans, where they say, do whatever you want, hurt no one.
Yeah.
This is along the same lines. It's just saying masculinity is whatever you want. Just try not to cause any problems with other people. It's such a silly, emotional, arbitrary, childish definition of masculinity. It completely removes the responsibility from the relationship. For example, if you are a male in a relationship, you have the function of leading the relationship. This is not an opinion. This is not a good-sounding philosophy. It is the way a relationship functions. Just like women have the function of bearing children in a relationship. Men don't have the option of bearing children. They don't have the emotional desire to bear children. It is a function of being of being female. So within relationships, genders have their
roles.
I hate the fact that we just call them roles, but they're really functions. It's like saying giving birth to a child is a role. Well, it is a role determined by your design. You have a womb, therefore you have the function of bearing a child. Just like men are stronger and smarter than women, as history and common sense and reason bear out, as we've proven in all our debates, men have this higher capacity because they have a higher responsibility on their shoulders. That's why men make up the majority of the fire department, the police department. I mean, even to get women in these occupations, you have to lower the standards to get women in there. So, and men take all the hard sciences. They invent everything in history that's significant. So men have the brain power and the brawn because they have the higher capacity, just like adults have higher capacity than children because they have the responsibility, the obligation to take care of children. So men going their own way are complaining about, and rightly so, they make the complaint that, well, you're saying we have responsibility as men, but we're being penalized by the feminist legal system, which sides with women. which basically says like, well, if I'm a parent in charge of a child and I tell the child to go to bed on time, this child can go to the legal system and have me thrown in jail for daring to tell them to go to bed. That's true. Men going their own way, the movement, they have a valid complaint, as do MRAs, men's rights activists. They make the same complaint. We also acknowledge this. This is a problem with the feminist legal system. But it does not discount your function as a male. And more importantly than that, men going their own way are worried that they can't control a woman in a relationship. And rightly so, they don't know how. They're emasculated. They don't realize that, you know, I'll give you a common complaint. I just got an email from a guy who just sent me this. Dear Manhood Academy, in your latest video, you know, where you, men going their own way, cowards exposed, blah, 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 you...
That one that was read in the video?
Yeah, at around the 15... No, this is a private inbox message that was sent to me. At around the 15-minute mark in the video, you criticize men going their MGTOWs for not standing up to women in relationships and not being able to put a woman in check in a relationship. How can a man stand up to a woman and put her in check in a relationship or otherwise when the police, the state, and the whole domestic violence industry will be on her side no matter how bitchy and unreasonable she may be? Okay, this is a problem with their view. They don't realize that as a man, you have... Hold on a second, your mic's hissing. Let me just mute it for 1 second. Your mic's hissing. As a man, your job is to lead a woman, which includes telling her what to do and telling her what not to do. Their assumption is, if you tell a woman what not to do, she will hate you or she'll run to the police. This is such an erroneous concept, such a silly, emasculated concept. I can't tell you how wrong it is. The reason they are complaining that the police will get involved, you'll get arrested, is because they've been passive their entire lives and they don't even realize it. Their relationships are very passive. They let women define their roles in the relationship. They don't realize it's just like a parent with an adult. It's just like a parent with a child. If you take a child to the store, a candy store, and the child says, I want some candy, and you're a parent, you want to be responsible, well, you know the child shouldn't have candy. They have their dinner coming up. They're not allowed to eat the candy. You should tell that child no. You should say no to that child. Okay? But the people in the men going the MGTOWs will refuse to tell the child no. So the child over time realizes that if they make a demand on a man, or a child realizes they make a demand on the parent in the relationship, they can get their way. That the parent won't put their foot down. So they have a long history of doing this. Over time, the child demands candy, demands clothing, demands video games, PlayStation, etc. And then one day, they make a demand that's going too far over the line. The problem is, because the whole relationship between the child and parent has been defined by, here, I'm giving into your way, I'm giving you whatever you want, I'm giving you whatever you want. Now, when they finally go over the line, the child asks for something way unreasonable, and the parent says no, now the child feels like they're being attacked, or something's, the parent's being abusive, so to speak. Because they're not used to being told no. Their whole lives they've been told yes by the parent. Their whole lives the parent has given in to the child's demands and whims and childish whims. So the same applies for a woman in a relationship with a man. These men start out very passive. They don't even know how to run a relationship. They don't know that they have the obligation and the responsibility, if they want the relationship to work, to direct the woman. They don't even have that first fucking clue. They just think it runs like Disneyland, like most men assume, that you're just nice, you give her flowers, you say nice things, you compliment her once in a while, you don't say anything that causes her any pain, and then somehow you get into a Disneyland relationship and it all works from there. And that's how they think relationships run. I just say, hey, you look beautiful, you're nice, I want to get to know you, let's go out on a relationship, we're on a date, okay, let's just do our own, let's just go to Disneyland, we go out to dinner, we have anniversaries, and hopefully it just works out. That's not how a relationship works. As a man, you have to be able to tell a woman no from the very start, and that's exactly what MGTOWs can't do, and that's exactly why they end up in a situation of divorce, of a woman accusing them of domestic violence, false rape accusations, what have you, because they've never put their foot down. Again, just like a child with an adult parent who always gives them their way, the child becomes spoiled. And if they have a long history of spoiling that child and they finally put their foot down, the child may go to Child Protective Services. They may go to the police. They may make a false accusation against their parents because they've been spoiled to have the belief that they can do that. If men were to put their foot down, as we teach at this academy, they'll realize that is the last consideration. I'm in a relationship right now with a girl. I never worry about me saying no to her, not giving her way, even spanking her bottom, and worrying about a domestic violence accusation. I've dated countless countless women and have never had this issue, never had this worry about, oh, I'm in a relationship and now she's gonna try to divorce me or take something from me. Does not happen when you know how to govern a relationship properly and you know how to tell a woman no from the very start. This is what MGTOWs don't even realize. They're at the receiving end of the legal system, at the receiving end of the punishment, because they've just governed their relationship by being permissive, by giving a woman her way and making her feel good at the expense of telling her what she needs to hear or governing her and cutting her off when she shouldn't be doing something or even saying something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I've got a few points I'd like to address.
Go for it. Sorry, right. I didn't mean to mute your mic, but your mic was making scratchy noises, so...
Yeah, I moved my hand, and that's probably...
Oh, perfect. I don't want to... If you want to jump in and interrupt one of my arguments, feel free to do so. Go ahead.
Alright, so, you said it was the man's job to lead the woman.
Yes.
This has been... You would agree that this is the traditionalist view of things, right?
It's saying... That's like saying it's traditional for a woman to bear a child. You could call it traditional, or you could call it functional. We prefer to call it functional because it's not just traditionally how relationships used to work. It is the reason why they work.
So the biological imperatives.
Exactly. It's biologically designed that way for the man to lead, for the man to be in charge of the relationship.
I can see your point in that. And one of the things is the men you're talking about, they border between the true forced loneliness crowd and the over paranoid crowd. Not all MGTOW are, avoid relationships, avoid women. Luckily, I am one of those guys, so I can give my 2 cents on the matter.
You're not one of the guys who avoids, or you are one of the guys who avoids?
I am one of the guys.
One of the guys what? Who avoids?
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess for that, it is partially because of the false rape accusations, because I have been falsely accused, not of rape, but of harassment.
Right. Now, is that when you're a relationship you were in? You were in like a long-term relationship with somebody?
No, that was because I wouldn't get into a relationship.
You wouldn't get into a relationship, so you got harassed. How did that happen?
No. I was accused of harassing.
You were accused of harassing because you wouldn't get... So you're telling me a woman was pursuing you, you just kept saying no, and therefore she accused you of harassment.
Okay, you know those high school gossip whores who just like to spread rumors and all that great shit?
All right.
Yeah, one of them.
Okay.
Didn't get her way. That's why I'm a little, on the whole, tell the woman no. I mean, I just avoid. That's my primary reason.
Yeah, but that's exactly what we're saying. You avoid the problem. And that is what creates the problem. It's like this. If you only react to what somebody is doing, you are actually being led by them. If a parent only reacts when a child does something wrong, the child is in charge. So you are only reacting when she is doing something. Instead of actively telling her what she shouldn't do and what she should do, you're just waiting around till there's a problem that she creates and then trying to just react to the problem. So, for example, if she complains to the administrators or spreads a rumor, as you said, you're harassing her.
That was a police charge on that.
Police charge. Again, you're reacting instead of telling her. I mean, right when she comes to you for this relationship, you should be directing her and governing her. That sets the tone for the relationship. If you just sit back passively, even if a girl you're pursuing, let's say a fat chubby chick is pursuing me, and she wants to get in a relationship with me and keeps talking to me, I'm going to tell her something. I'm going to tell her, no, I don't want to be in a relationship with you.
I did. It's not like I just sat there clamped up and, oh, please don't do anything. I told her straight out no. I said, I have no interest in being in a relationship with you. You are a gossip whore. You spread rumors. You don't check your facts. You try to get other people to turn against their friends for I don't know what reason. I want nothing to do with you.
So you're saying this woman just pursued you, even though you just kept turning her down?
I only turned her down once.
You turned her down one time, and
yeah.
And then she called the cops on you because you turned her down.
It wasn't directly after that. It was near the graduation of college.
It sounds like there's a lot more that you're not telling us to the story. It just seems very fishy.
Honest. That was all there was to it.
I don't know how many men can relate to this, where a girl's just pursuing them, and then they just say, no, I'm not into you, and then let me go to the police because you're not into me. It doesn't even sound real. It sounds surreal.
Yeah, how do you think I felt when I got served an arrest warrant?
I don't know if I even believe that, because you're basically saying, what evidence? You told her no. What is she presenting as evidence? She just went to the police and said you're harassing her. Well, okay, if that, even let's just say this is the case. What, all the more reason to speak up and be more active in telling women what to do and what not to do. Why why would, if women have such power,
last time.
if women have such legal power, as you claim, to just arbitrarily just say, well, you're not dating me, so I'm just going to go to the police and have you arrested. If they could just do that, all the more reason to govern women and to tell women no. I mean, that of all cases tells me that you should be actively taking a hand in governing women and not just saying hands off because you're by your own admission. You did nothing and she could still accuse you.
Exactly.
So what would be the point of running away at that point? You're already fucked. You already just demonstrated. I think it's an absurd, extreme situation. I don't believe you're telling me all the facts, but I'm just going to pretend that you are. And even in that case, all the more reason, if somebody could just ruin my life and have me accused of something and thrown in jail, and I don't even know them or associate with them, they just want to get in a relationship with me and they could just do that, why wouldn't I speak up? Why wouldn't I try to govern them all the more? I mean, if I just sit back passively, I can be accused anyway, just as you admitted.
Oh, I got out of it. I got out of it.
So you're just hoping to keep getting out of it. You're just hoping to keep getting arrested and getting out of it. Women just keep coming up to you saying, I want to get in a relationship with you, and they're going to call the cops on you, and somehow you're going to just weasel your way out of it.
That's a non sequitur. So
what do you mean that's a non sequitur?
It's not.
You just said the solution was you got out of it.
Yeah, I got away from the situation.
So if another girl comes up to you and says, "Hey, psychological cynic, I'm interested in you. Let's get in a relationship," and you say no again, you're just gonna let her go to the cops and hope you get out of it again?
What do you expect me to do? I'll restrain her, tell her don't go to the cops? That sounds kind of ridiculous.
Well,
What do you do? Go to the cops. I'm saying no, but don't go to the cops.
You wouldn't proactively do something?
What would you expect me to do?
I don't know. What would you do if you just knew constantly anybody could anytime could just make you go to jail? You're not doing anything. You're just walking along. Oh, I want to go out with you. Oh, you're not? Okay, you're going to jail. You're just gonna. Your solution is just to sit fucking back and take it.
Not really. I just avoid the situation. That's all I can do. Pick up my toys.
Well,
and
then
leave the sandbox.
Your whole point is just leave society.
Yep.
You sound so delusional. There's no way I can even trust you. You're telling me a girl's just going to come up to you. I like you. Oh, let me call the cops, by the way, and then that's it. First of all, I don't even believe you're telling me the whole story. Secondly, how could you live? I mean, you are a live demonstration of why you should speak up. If this silly story was true, that means that at any time, I should just be in fear of my life that a woman could just arbitrarily go, oh, I want to be in a relationship with you, professor. Oh, no relationship, you're going to the cops. What? How would I not be out there protesting? How would I not be out there screaming for justice? How would I just be sitting there placidly, calmly, waiting for my next trip to jail? It's ridiculous. It's utterly absurd.
Believe whatever you want to, Professor. Belief doesn't change fact.
It doesn't sound like you're even telling me the facts. I want to get her story. I need to interview her because I don't believe this for a second. She just came up to you, said, I like you, and then you're going to jail because you're not reciprocating. It's such an absurd notion. You haven't even given in the whole. I don't believe you've given us all the facts.
That's all the facts there was to give. I went there to become an EMT, and she wanted a little something from me, and I said no. I don't want anything to do with you.
She's your boss? She's sexually harassing you? She's your boss?
No. She was my fellow student.
Okay, and you're talking to her. This is the first conversation. She just came out of the blue and said, "Hey, I like you. I want to get in a relationship with you." Just out of the blue. First time talking to her.
More or less. I know it sounds.
What do you mean more or less? It either is or isn't. I'm asking you. It doesn't sound plausible.
That's how
the girl just came up to you. Hey, you're so hot. You're so handsome. You're so beautiful. I just want to get in a relationship with you.
No. It was more like, how are you doing? You want to come back to my place? Blah blah blah.
How are you? So she just, hey, a guy on work. How you doing? Let's go fuck. Come back to my place. That's it.
Not exactly. Just like
not
that.
exactly. It doesn't. It sounds like you're full of shit. I can't believe she's just talking to you.
You believe whatever you want to.
Well, I'm trying to get the facts. You're not even telling. It sounds so fishy. I don't know if anybody listening to this. Okay, I've never had this experience, and you're not like a supermodel. I'm seeing you right now. I'm just talking to a girl. Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, you want to come back and fuck? What? Oh, you're not gonna fuck me? Here, let me call the cops. What? It just sounds so fishy and so absurd.
Oh yeah, there was like 2 minutes of flirting beforehand.
2 minutes of flirting?
Yeah, that was what I left out. Yeah, there you go.
I think you're leaving a lot more out. How can anybody trust this account? Okay, look, again, let's just assume it's true, for argument's sake.
All right.
We're assuming it's true. Again, same thing, same reasoning applies. Why, if somebody has the power to just arbitrarily just take you to jail just because you don't want to go fuck them, why would you dare sit back and just let it happen to you?
I reiterate my previous point that I asked you, what would you have me do? There was nothing I could do. What do I do? Go to the police and tell her, this lady, I rejected her and she might come to you and say that I harassed her.
It's so I really don't have an answer because I really don't believe the situation the way it unfolded. So I don't know. I don't even know how to answer you. I guess I would say if a girl could just arbitrarily come up to me and say, "Fuck," I would be on the news. I would be shouting it. I'd be fucking protesting. I'd be going to her college. I'd be going to her parents. I'd be putting signs and posters up. I'd be talking to the administration. I'd make a big fucking stink about this if I knew that at any time, just knowing what you told me, I could just go around and just somebody could say, "Oh, that person over there, I want him in jail." If it was that there was that at liberty to pull that shit off, there's no way I would be sitting still.
And you know what? I will concede that point. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I should have said something. I should have gone to the media. I should have gone to administrators. I should have done a lot of things, but I didn't.
This is my point.
Because I was
That's exactly my point.
Because I was a chicken shit. You were right.
But
you got me.
That's exactly my point. Number one, I don't believe you're telling me the whole truth. I don't believe this whole situation. Number two, even if it was true, the fact that you're not speaking up for yourself is indicative of the whole movement itself. This is why men get into these situations in the first place. Your situation isn't even realistic. A more realistic situation is a guy who's actually been in a relationship, a romantic relationship, over time. Have you ever had a romantic relationship with a woman over time?
Yes.
How did that go?
Yes, I have. I guess normal. I mean, it wasn't okay, it was a love-hate relationship. Love sometimes, hate the other.
Love, hate. Can you be more specific? She hated you, you loved her, hated her. I don't understand what you're saying.
We loved each other at times and hated each other at times. It was a,
because?
Sometimes we're like, huh?
Because?
Different personality traits, quirks. She liked to watch TV late at night. I didn't. So
You couldn't tell her anything? You couldn't direct her behavior?
I tried to, but just didn't care after a certain number of years.
Because you weren't able to, correct?
Sure, we'll go with that, yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Come on, you can't even give me a straight answer. It's obvious. You aren't able to govern a woman. You aren't able to tell her what to do and what not to do. Ironically, that Men Going Their Own Way page, for once in their lives, they say, tell a woman no. This is what you should have told her at the very start of the relationship. You wouldn't have this resentment. You wouldn't have the hate part of the relationship.
I don't have resentment to her.
Just said you hate her. You couldn't get her to do what you wanted to do.
I didn't feel like I was her boss.
And that is the problem.
That's what I should have done.
That's exactly what we're saying. Because you're not the boss, your relationship will go to shit. This is where false accusations of domestic violence come in, when you're not the boss. This is where your sexual needs don't get met, when you're not the boss. This is where fighting comes in, when you're not the boss. This is where resentment comes in, when you're not the boss. That's exactly where that comes from.
But now I would like to, because you said it. You said the exact reason that I avoid women.
Exactly.
It's because if you're not on top of your game, you're basically treated like shit.
Exactly.
Would you want to hang out with somebody who treat you like shit if you gave them the opportunity?
Either actively treat you like shit or passively treat you like shit. And I'll answer your question. Would I want to be with somebody who treated me like shit? The problem is, it's just like raising a child. Look, children don't intend to fuck you over. They're not born thinking, I'm going to fuck my parents over. But if a parent isn't responsible to give them boundaries, to tell them what they can do and what they can't do, that child will fuck them over. Not only will the child fuck the parent over, it'll fuck society over. That's why single mothers, who are notorious for not putting any boundaries on their children and not enforcing the boundaries they do put on them, that is why single mothers produce, by and large, the most violent felons behind bars. No boundaries. So children, just like as we talked about in the previous example, if they're spoiled, you give them their way, they will expect to get their way. It will become an expectation with them. Demanding will become an expectation. When a baby cries, I want a bottle, that becomes an expectation. They are shaped that way. That is not their intention, but that's just their nature. That's just what they become. Just like you. If your parents didn't put boundaries on you, you would grow up to be a spoiled asshole. You would fuck people over in your relationships. It's not about, well, did they want to or they not want to? Are they a nice person or a mean person? Are they immoral or moral? It's the way they're governed. People act the way they are governed. If you are governed to be permissive, you will act spoiled. Women today,
I get what you're saying. Women
today are very spoiled. That's why they act with an entitlement mentality. They think they're entitled to hit men. They think they're entitled to half what men make if they get divorced from a marriage. They think they're entitled to the same pay even though they don't do the same work. They don't do the same hard work. They don't have the same hard education that men have taken, the road they've taken. They want to take vacations. They want to get maternity leave. They don't work the same hours. etc. And they still want the same things. They feel entitled because nobody tells them no. It's a product of who is governing them. It's a product of who is raising them. They're raised under a feminist state which says you can do no wrong. In a sexual situation, if both of you are drunk, only the man is accountable. Only the man is responsible. You can do no wrong. So women are governed to be spoiled. They are governed to act that way. They are pushed that way. When you do not direct a woman and tell her you have a boundary, you have a responsibility. If you have a right, if you want the same rights as men, you have the same responsibilities as men. Because we don't enforce that, we don't require that of women in this feminist society, we're very permissive with them, they turn into spoiled children. This is the situation we have today. Men who are too afraid to say no to women, even though ironically, men going their own way, people say, you have to say no to women. You have to say no to bitch behavior. And the best way to do that is to avoid women, to drop out of society. No! That's the last way to do that. And you have perfectly demonstrated that. You said yourself, I got falsely accused. I didn't do anything. Well, all the more reason to tell somebody no.
No, you said that it doesn't matter. Morality doesn't matter. Is that right?
What?
When it comes to women, that you're supposed to guide them, morality is...
No, what you're referring to, I was making the point, whether they were saying they were nice or mean, whether they're moral or immoral. I'm saying that the way you govern a person determines how moral they behave, how, quote, quote, nice they behave. We don't use the word nice here. It's whether they're functional in their behavior or dysfunctional. It will depend on how you govern them, how you raise them.
All right, so you're talking about girls from children.
I'm talking about everybody. Look, if you go to school, why do you even bother to go to school? Why do your parents make you go to school? You don't know, you're not growing up learning how to speak and communicate with people. You don't know how to use your words if somebody causes you a grievance or butt hurt or they take something from you. You don't know how to tell them don't do that or stop doing that. You just have the emotional urge to punch them. So people realize, we need some education. We need to teach people how to express themselves. We need to teach people how to develop a skill so they can get a job so they can eat. We need to govern people. We need to put boundaries on people so then they start educating their children. Why the fuck do you think we do that? It's because we realize that people without boundaries grow up to be utter retards. They grow up to be useless morons. They grow up to be felons. They grow up to be problems in society. I, of all people, know this because I myself was raised by a single mother and got into a lot of trouble because I had no boundaries for my own behavior. This is what happens when men grow up without a father figure, without a guy to tell them yes and to tell them no. This is what happens when everybody grows up under a permissive, feminist environment, a liberal environment which says do whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, now here we agree and disagree to a point. I do believe that fathers are necessary in a child's life in order for correct and healthy development. The way I see it, a mother nurtures the child, the father forces the child to grow up. That's why I've always more or less seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And the disagreement part is, I believe women are individuals in and of themselves, just like men are. And I know you probably disagree with that.
I do disagree, because then why would you train them? Why would parents bother correcting their children or making them go to school? Why would we have a police force that tells you stop if you're going too fast, give you tickets? Why would there be penalties? Why would there be all these systems in place of governing people, of telling them what to do and what not to do? Why would they even exist if everybody's so individual and they just go their own way and do whatever they want? Why even have a justice system? Why have a legal system?
Why have all that? Because people are paranoid out of the ass. You don't call me paranoid, just look at other people.
So paranoia justifies a legal system. Even though by your own admission or by your claim, everybody just does whatever they want. They're all individuals. Girls will just do what they're going to do, regardless of how they're raised.
Oh, no, they're not. Raising, as I said, when I said the whole father is important thing, parents do help develop the personality of the child. Mm-hmm. So yes, that is true, and I full-heartedly agree with that. But when the female reaches maturity, she is unto herself an individual. And I'm not going to sit there and tell her what to do. I don't want to have to lead her. I don't want another child. I don't want a child. If she cannot be a responsible adult for herself, why would I want anything to do with her? Whenever I think of that kind of thing, I think, would I put up with this from a man? No, I would not.
Well, then I would say to you, why don't you grow up? If she's supposed to grow up and be an adult, why can't you grow up and be an adult? I mean, you just told me your rights are trampled on, and your solution to being an adult is to run away and let people take your rights from you. Just throw you arbitrarily in jail.
Okay,
that's an adult?
No, I get it. This society has its rules set up. Everyone already bows to the great police state. No man will stand up to police and not get shot in the end. No matter how big your game is, no matter how big your dick is, you're not going to stand up to big alpha government. We all know. I'm not supposed to use that word, but that's the fact of the matter. No matter how individualistic I am in this society, the government will call the shots one way or another. No matter me speaking out is going to change that.
Let me ask you a question. Who is the government? Who is the government?
The government is made up of the police, judicial system.
Who are the police? Who are the politicians?
People.
Who are those
Who I
people?
want to get away from.
Who are those people?
People?
You're gonna get away from people?
Yeah.
The only way to get away from people is suicide.
Well, not to that degree, but...
Well, you basically said people. You know who the government is? It's you. You know who the police are? They're you.
Hey, well, I don't carry around a badge and tell people to give me money because magical authority, okay? So no, I am not police.
Where do you think they come from? Where do you think this government comes from? It comes from guys like you, passive guys like you, who bend over backwards for women.
What are you even talking about right now?
Exactly what I've been talking about for the past hour. The passiveness and permissiveness of guys like you who just say, oh, well, this girl just accused me of harassing her, so I went to jail. And I didn't do anything. She just wanted to get with me, and she said, hey, come over and have sex, and then I wouldn't, and she just threw me in jail, and my solution is just to do nothing.
To leave.
To leave.
It's not
Leave where? Leave where? There's people everywhere. There's governments everywhere. Where the fuck are you gonna go?
There's plots of land out in the middle of like a forest where nobody goes. Come on. Let's not.
So your solution is to fucking become a hermit out in the woods?
Maybe.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Why would I be kidding you?
I don't know. It just sounds so absurd and delusional. You're just gonna... What do you think? People aren't gonna colonize the whole place eventually? They're gonna have rules that apply to everything eventually? What, are you just gonna be a militia in the desert somewhere or in some remote jungle with guns just surrounding a house just by yourself? What kind of existence is that?
What kind of existence is this?
Yeah, you have a passive existence. My point is, look, you're such a passive guy, you don't realize that you control your environment. You're letting your environment control you. You're letting all the people around you control you. Who do you think gives them power? I mean, look, you're talking about a government controlling you and police being in charge. Who gave them power? Who gave them permission? You did. By being a passive guy, you did. By saying nothing, you did.
If I was an active guy, I'd be shot.
You'd be shot?
I would be shot or put in a cage.
Telling a girl no gets you
shot.
shot.
How does that sound?
Telling a girl no gets you shot. Is that what you're telling me? I've never been shot, and I've been in hundreds of relationships.
I'm talking about fighting the government, fighting people trying to put you in a cage. That's what I'm talking about.
You know how you fight people? You know how you fight the government?
Ridiculous.
You know how you fight a government you don't agree with? You don't go up to the White House and assassinate the president. You don't go fucking set a bomb off anywhere. I'm not saying you don't have to be a terrorist to change the government. The best way to change the government is to change everybody around you first, because they eventually become the government. Old politicians die off and new ones have to take their place. Old cops die and new ones take their place.
Dude. If nobody changed anything, they'd make it illegal. You know that. Come on.
Manhood Academy isn't illegal. We've been changing men around the world. I've demonstrated that it's possible, and it's not only possible, it's practical. That's what we're doing here. I'm taking men. It was just me in the beginning. It's just me. I'm just one person just like you. The difference is I changed everybody around me. Now look, I got an entire fucking academy. I got men around the world who are speaking up for themselves. I did it. One person. I'm my own government. That's what I'm teaching you to do. That's what I'm teaching you that you can do if you didn't just accept that you had to be a passive faggot your entire life. If you realize that you could speak up for yourself, and it is possible to change the government, to change everything you don't like by changing the people around you first in your life who you have no control over, the relationships you have no control over. This is the first step to governing. This is the first step to governing a society, to governing a nation, to governing the world eventually. It is learning how to govern your own relationships. This is what you have no clue how to do, and this is what I want you to teach you how to do, so you don't have to be paranoid and fucking run off to a forest somewhere to live by yourself.
Yeah?
Yes, I'm trying to help you. This is why the whole fucking reason this academy exists in the first place. So you men going your own way, faggots, don't have to be such scared, timid people hiding in the jungle, hiding from human contact because you're worried that you'll get a false accusation made against you and have to go off to jail.
Alright, first and foremost, I'm not representative of all men going their own way. There are some who are just fine getting
great. Another issue I have with that.
Fine doing all of what you said.
Guys say that
it's just my personal choice.
You guys say you're all individual and nobody represents anybody else. How can you have a fucking movement? How can you have a banner? How can you even have a masthead? How can you say we're men going their own way if that can mean anything? If men going their own way can mean I'm following the government, I'm not following the government, I'm in a relationship with women, I'm not in a relationship with women, I tell women no, I don't tell women no, I care what women think, I don't care what women think. If men going their own way can mean anything under the sun, how can you even fucking call yourselves men going your own way?
Because it means you can do whatever you want.
Well, isn't that just called anarchy? Don't they already have a fucking definition for that? Can't you just do whatever? Why do you even have a name? That's going the way somebody else is going.
Anarchy is a world without government.
You just said do whatever you want. That is a world without government, doing whatever you want.
Not really.
Yes, really. And
there
that
are
is our
governments who are
definition of
elected
anarchy.
because their views correlate with the people. who want to
Anarchy
do what
means
they want
no
to do.
governing structure. Exactly what you said. Do whatever the fuck you want. That is anarchy.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the government structure equates to restrictions on what people all want to do. I mean, if let's take a law. For
Yeah,
example,
but you just
the
said you're an
murder.
individual, and no
Murder.
men going their own way are all individuals. They all have their own individual minds and thoughts. Then you're not men going your own way. You're not MGTOW. You're just a person. You do whatever the fuck you want. You're an anarchist. You're an anarchy system. You believe in whatever you want to do. That's what you can do. How is that any different from anarchy?
Basically, and you're equating anarchy with men just doing
Whatever they want.
Yeah, anarchy is no government.
Right.
And if you have a government that lets you do what you want to do, then you can still have that government.
How does that apply to your philosophy? Your philosophy is you do whatever you want. That's men going their own way.
I am an anarchist. That's my personal belief.
So you're not in men going their own way. You're an anarchist. It's totally different.
Not really. Well,
Not
I mean,
what?
my philosophical views are along anarchy.
If you say that nobody can be representative of men going their own way because they have no governing philosophy, they have nothing they follow, then you are an anarchist by definition. They don't follow anything. They just do whatever they want.
As I've said before, you can still have a government while doing what you want to do.
How can you have a government if nobody believes in it and nobody follows it? How is that even a government?
That is just my personal belief.
Yeah, and my point is your personal belief is fucking retarded because you can't have a government that people follow, that governs people, that controls people, that tells them what to do and what not to do. You can't have a governing structure and say, oh, by the way, we do whatever we want. That's the opposite of a governing structure. Government means control. I tell you what you can do and can't do. In a government, you can't speed. You can't murder people. You can't steal from people. That is a government because there's penalties if you disobey the governing laws, the restrictions, the boundaries that are by definition making up a government. When you have no restrictions and have no laws, then you can't have a government because there's no penalties for breaking any laws. You can do whatever you want.
Let me give you an example to try and. All right, so let's say we have 20 men who go ahead and make up a government. They happen to be men going their own way, whatever. And the only law there is a speed limit. Speed limit can't exceed 40 miles an hour.
Okay.
None of the men there want to go over 40 miles an hour anyway. They still have a government.
And is there a penalty if they go over the 40 miles an hour?
Yeah, well, what's the point of having a law if you don't have
That is my point that you're not grasping. They are a governing structure at that point. When there is a penalty, and they all agree there's a penalty, they are controlling behavior by saying, you can do this, no penalty here, but if you break this law, there's a penalty. Now you have a governing structure.
But they don't want to break the law anyway. So they still
it doesn't matter. Their intention is irrelevant because at the end of the day, they get a punishment. By your admission, at the end of the day, they get a punishment if they break that law. So it doesn't matter if their intention is to follow it or not. It doesn't matter if their intention is to follow it or not. If there's a penalty, it's a governing structure.
As I said, I don't represent all of men going their own way.
You don't represent shit.
That's my personal belief.
Your beliefs are retarded. You haven't decided if you believe in a government where there are penalties.
I don't believe in government. All it is a monopoly on violence.
Well, then you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in any structure. Like, I could kill you and there'd be no problem with it. There should be no penalty. If I just go up with a knife and stab you, there's no penalty. If you really believe in no government, there's nothing you can do to me.
Government is not necessary for me to deck you in the face for stabbing me.
Oh, you can't do anything about it. I can just look. What if I come up? Okay, what if I come up behind you, genius, and I just stab you from behind while you're asleep, and now you're dead? What's to prevent me from stabbing the next person?
What's to stop you from stabbing another person?
It's called the law. It's called the law. It's called the penalty.
Yeah, law stops drug dealers too. Come on.
Well, nobody enforces the law. Nobody enforces the law. If you enforce the law, it stops people.
We have plenty of law enforcement. I guarantee you. We have plenty of that.
If you look at, first of all, you're talking about an incompetent legal system. That's different. The fact that there is a legal system doesn't negate, the fact that there's an incompetent legal system doesn't negate that people are governed by punishment and reward. For example, why would you go to a school that could give you bad grades if bad grades didn't matter? Why would you go to a school and try for an A if an A didn't matter? There's a governing system in place. There is a punishment if you don't do well in school, and there's a reward if you do well in school. That is the whole reason why people try to do that.
All right, so let's get a few things straightened out here. Your belief is that government is the governing system of everything. It is the belief of structure, right?
Anytime you have an agreement to punish or reward somebody, you have a government by definition. If we agree to do something, yes. Well, who's going to enforce the penalty then? If we're speeding and you're a mythological society, who's going to enforce the penalty if I go over 40?
It depends. Is it on private property?
Oh, okay. You own the road? Is that what you're telling me in your society?
That part of the road, sure, why not?
So you own the road, so I need permission. It's a toll road in this case.
No, maybe I have a shop on there and I get more traffic coming through.
What does that matter? We're talking about the road. You're so fucking delusional. You don't even know how society works. If there's a public road, it's governed by our agreement over the road. If there's speeding on that road, I either get a penalty or I don't.
Yeah, and if I don't want you speeding on that road, then I would be the one to enforce the penalty.
So now I got to go to each individual person. You're telling me, okay, I go by your house. I got to stop and knock. Oh, can I speed on this road? Oh, okay. Then I go to the next house when I get out of my car, stop the engine, knock on the next door. Oh, I'm on your section of the road now. Do I get to speed or not? Then I drive to the next house and I go, oh, next section of the road, next private property. I got to stop my car, knock. Am I allowed to speed or not? Are you fucking high?
No, and that's exactly what I would think about. I just say, you know what, do whatever the fuck you want because I really wouldn't want to deal with that.
I think you perfectly summed up your philosophy. You don't want to deal with it. You don't even fucking make sense. That's how much you don't want to deal with it. And yet you say do whatever you want. Yet you want to have a governing structure where there's penalties for breaking the law. It's
really?
utterly fucking ridiculous.
I don't believe I ever said that.
I don't know what you said. You don't even know what you believe.
No, because you keep putting words in my mouth.
Oh, great. You put the words in your own mouth. Tell me what you believe then.
Really. I believe people are capable of governing themselves.
Governing themselves. So, whatever you want to do, I'm just responsible for policing myself. Again, we have total anarchy. No penalty. I'm in charge of policing my own behavior, which basically means I can do whatever the fuck I want because I'm the police.
You don't trust yourself?
That's not the point.
Yeah,
would I be in a society with a guy, there's no laws, you just do whatever you want, and you're in charge of governing yourself? Okay.
You don't think you can do that?
I'm saying you're fucking retarded if you think that's how society would run. You'd be dead in a week, if that.
Oh, so your assertion is that people just want to kill everybody. You think that the guy down the street just looking for
You seriously think the laws are there just because everybody agrees we can all police ourselves? That's why we have laws. That's what your assertion is, that the law's in place, the legal system is in place right now, the police are there, governing structures there in schools, governing structures there in homes, all the penalties and rewards are there because we're all capable of policing ourselves? Is that what you're fucking trying to assert?
I'm saying they're there for power. Because people like you are so paranoid.
Paranoid.
That the guy on the street's going to come down and
I'm paranoid that retards like you
would kill you in a week. That is your assumption. If that's not paranoia, I don't know what is.
I'm paranoid that retards like you eventually grow up to govern other people. You have no clue what you believe or why you believe it. It's not even rational. It makes no sense whatsoever. You can't answer any challenges to your silly beliefs. This is why you're men going your own way in the first place. This is exactly my complaint about MGTOWs. They're fucking absurd children who don't like to have their views publicly scrutinized because the public will find out they're full of shit. Just like I proved that you're full of shit. You make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Quick question on that, actually. Yes. How, on the internet, that's the most public place in this world, and our opinions on it are all over the place.
They aren't scrutinized. Look, if I put an opinion on my wall in my house and nobody is allowed to correct that opinion, it's not a public opinion. Just like when these fucking cowards and the men going their own way movement put their opinions on their forums and censor any criticism of their opinion, it's not a public opinion because it's not publicly scrutinized. Public opinions are allowed to be publicly scrutinized. If you can't scrutinize an opinion, it's not public by definition. It's private, even if you could see it.
So what is, quote-unquote, public scrutiny in your eyes?
It means that people are allowed to challenge it and criticize it, and you are not afraid of answering those challenges and criticisms. For example, gravity is a publicly scrutinized principle. People should scrutinize it. People should ask questions about it because it's a principle that people should never be threatened by. If it's something that's truth, if it's something that's real, if it's something that's reasonable, if it's something that's valid, if it's a principle that governs the universe, it doesn't matter how harshly or unfairly you criticize it. It doesn't matter if you throw an ad hominem at it. It doesn't matter if you call it a faggot. It doesn't matter if you yell at it. None of that fucking matters. If it's a principle, it'll be there regardless. And the more you challenge a principle, the more the principle is evident. The more the principle is justified. The more the principle is verified by examination, just like any experiment a good scientist would do. They don't go, oh, I don't want to be too rough in testing this theory. No, they want to overtest it. They want to be biased. They want to be critical. They want to be harsh against it. Because if it's really true, it will stand the test of scrutiny. This is why you men going your own way cowards are full of bullshit, because you don't allow your views to be scrutinized. And here's what happens. You are a prime example.
I want to know.
You're a prime example of what happens when your views are publicly scrutinized. They come undone. You sound like a nonsensical...
Oh, man, this is going to be good.
You sound like a nonsensical moron. You can't decide if you want a government or anarchy. And it's apparent because you can't...
Are you fucking kidding
me
right now?
You can't justify your views.
Already, man. It's some people. I'm an anarchist. I don't want government. How many times are you going to conflate what they want with what I want? Fucking A, man. Do you listen?
You can't even... Yeah, speaking of poor listening skills, you can't even understand, you can't even grasp the concept that you can't even walk out in society as an anarchist. It's not even possible. It's not possible. It's not possible to have a neighbor, to have a relationship without any boundary, without any barrier. Otherwise, I could just poke you in the eyeball.
Let's talk about that, too. You think that kind of government, there's self-governance, and then there's government who uses monopoly on violence. That's
self-governance? How do I arbitrate a fucking dispute? You don't think, in your perfect utopian world, you're self-governing, and you have a dispute, you think there's no disputes between neighbors?
Yeah, but I expect them to be calm, rational adults.
What if they're not?
I don't permissively say, I'm going to have somebody else come in and
You're an absurd child. You think if there's a disagreement between you guys, who arbitrates?
You select one if you're that fucking immature.
You select one? How do they decide? What's their criteria? Mr. Maturity?
They make a fucking decision.
They just make a decision? Okay, as you said. You have no basis for decision. They just make a decision. That's how fucking adult you are. That's how fucking rational you are. Oh, they just make a decision. Okay. Guy pokes you in the eyeball. Here, I'll go by your criteria. Guy pokes you in the eyeball. My decision is he should have poked you harder. Case closed. Okay, I made a decision. I did exactly what you told me. You're a fucking genius.
Well, yeah, that's what totally would happen. True story. Anyway, so did you want to get back to MGTOW, or did you want to...
I don't know. What else do you want to debate about? You're obviously unqualified to debate. You don't even fucking know what you believe in. Go ahead. What else do you want to cover?
Objectivity and MGTOW. Alright, vacuum bubble of societal confirmation rejection. Oh shit, I think we already covered that too.
Yes, we did. Anything left? Because I think we've already made up our minds. I think I'm clear. I think you're not clear. And I think I proved it already.
I'm very clear, I assure you.
I think I proved it. Let's go to audience reaction. Flappy?
You admitted yourself, psychological said that you wanted that girl when you were talking about the girl that brought up charges with you. You said you were flirting with her. Why would you flirt with her if you wanted to?
Wait a sec. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to re-argue the point that we had, because the debate's over. I don't want to interrupt, but you bring up a perfectly valid point if he's flirting.
No, she was flirting with me. That's what
She's just flirting. You didn't shut it down. Okay. Flappy, go ahead. I'm sorry. You know what? It's not fair. I'm not going to interrupt the audience. I'm going to let the audience speak. I'm not going to interrupt. That's not fair. Go ahead, Flappy.
I used to be just like you. I was almost to the point where I was just going to go my own way. I was going to walk out into a desert trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life because I couldn't get what I want from a woman, which is what I want. I want to be with a woman. I realized this academy is what's going to give me that. This place gave me the direction I didn't have, which you don't have. So that professor is giving me every reason to believe him, and you haven't given me any reason to believe you. Professor won the debate.
Of course he did.
Danilorf?
It's fine this guy's talking about being paranoid when he wants to live alone in the forest. He thinks that government just appeared by zero. He doesn't think that the government is constructed by people, that it takes times and times of the history to be built. He just thinks that over there nobody constructed it, and it's fucking retarded. He doesn't have a point. He's always contradicting himself. I didn't like this debate.
All right, your opinion was somewhat incoherent, but thank you. Bunny Boy?
Psycho, to me, you sound...
Speak up, Bunny Boy. Louder.
Oh, sorry. To me, it seems like you think that you're really smart, Psycho. But what you're speaking makes no sense at all. You're basically suggesting that all of us should go to the forest and live by ourselves.
Okay.
No, seriously, is this what you're saying? I understand.
Go ahead.
Like
this isn't a debate, Bunny Boy. Just give your reaction.
Sorry. So that's what I understood, and that makes no sense to me. That you should isolate yourself if you cannot solve the problem. You should try to solve the problem and not isolate yourself. That's all.
Okay, DBE?
Psycho, I came in halfway through the debate, and you sounded pretty rational at first. You admitted like, yeah, you're right, I should have stood up for myself more, and I was like, okay, cool, this guy sounds rational. But the biggest contradiction you made, you admitted to Professor, look, children need a father figure to restrict them so that they learn morality. He made up the point that the way someone is governed determines how moral they are. He used those words, and you said, I agree. Then, 20 minutes later, you say, well, the people should just be mature. They don't need a governing structure. If they don't need a governing structure, why did you agree with his point about governing structure determining that a governing structure determines how you make moral decisions with Professor's point 20 minutes ago? You contradicted yourself. and you're calling a professor paranoid. To me, you seem paranoid. What you're saying is essentially, maybe you're not being as dramatic that you have to go out in the woods and just not deal with people. But you might as well go out and live in the woods if you're not going to deal with people. If you're not going to deal with your problems, if you're just going to sit there and take it, you might as well fucking live in the woods. You're not doing anything. You're not being active with what you want. That's the same fucking thing as being isolated. So your philosophy makes no sense. You're trying to talk like the same way you contradicted yourself in with how a governing structure determines your morality. You can't decide whether or not you want a governing structure or you want anarchy, and you wouldn't answer professors' challenges on that. Your philosophy didn't make any sense, and I was impressed with you at the beginning, and I thought you would be more reasonable than you actually are now. So I was a little disappointed, but I think this was a good debate, an educational one.
All right, Cotton Picker. Thank you, DB. Go ahead. Cotton Picker.
Yes. At the beginning, like DBE said, he started off sounded like he at least was able to think logically. You were going back and forth, and he seemed like he was able to at least think critically. And then there was that turning point where he just went into the world of ridiculous. And I would have respected him more because obviously he should have realized the plan was completely delusional. They're not going to separate people from society. And every time he kept on saying, I just expect people to do...
Oh, you lagged out. Come back. No.
Wait, are you out of your mind?
Keep going. Whoa. Repeat. Back up about 30 seconds. We missed it. Go ahead.
I said,
you said they're going to separate from society. That part. Go ahead.
Okay, you're saying people should separate from society, and your response to the professor when he came up with the examples of all these different instances that could occur is, well, I just expect people to act rationally. Are you crazy? Elliot Rodgers was expected to act rationally a fucking few weeks ago when he was running around with a fucking knife and a gun. Are you out of your mind? And he was cut off from sex. He was the fucking spitting image of what the person you said is supposed to be happy. So what on earth are you even talking about? Of course you need a government. And I'm glad this debate happened because for a while now I was trying to get the separation between the MGTOW group and what we were doing because I knew they were slightly different. Some of them don't even respect the MRA. But then, I think the professor drove it home today when he said they're just in their own way still doing the same thing, still running away from their problems, still not addressing things directly. And I think you proved that. And like I said, I would have had a lot more respect for you had you come to that realization. But then at the end, you just start acting like a chick, which is a reflection of men today, just laughing, giggling, becoming sarcastic when you couldn't obviously had no further argument. And that's when I just completely lost respect. So after that, the professor was pretty much teaching. And if you were smart, you would have been listening because obviously you didn't have anything to say after he'd already proven that your point was ridiculous.
Professor, can I add a point that I forgot?
Quickly.
Okay. Hang on, Psycho. I noticed that like the MGTOWs and MRAs, whenever you try to corner them on a point, they say, "Oh, well, I don't think this. I don't speak for all MRAs. I don't speak for all MGTOWs." But if you guys aren't going to adhere to a standard of right and wrong of what you believe, we believe this, we think this is right, we don't think, and we think this is wrong. If you can't adhere to a standard like that, where do you have the grounds to tell somebody what they're doing is wrong? How do you have the grounds to tell feminists what they're doing is right or wrong when you can't even determine when you can't even reach a consensus on what you think is right or wrong? Because it just seems like everybody just has their own opinion. Well, why can't feminists have their own opinion?
Okay. Thank you guys for your feedback. We'll just give a closing statement. I'll let you have the last word, psychological cynic. I think we've aptly demonstrated from this debate why men going their own way are a fucking ridiculous group of misguided children. They hold a childish philosophy of anarchy, of either their philosophy is absurd and they all agree with it, or they just like this guy and say, oh no, we just are all individual, which is the gist of I got from the criticism that I was reading on the internet about our group is, oh, how dare the professor criticize our movement when we're just everybody's individual and we all think our own thing? Well, then you're basically anarchists and you have no opinion, and it's equally absurd in either case. So I think this debate has perfectly demonstrated why MGTOWs are incompetent, they don't know what they're doing, they're just lost children, and why the academy is so necessary to teach men how to govern properly a relationship so they don't have false accusations made against them, they don't have to worry about domestic violence, and they can actually be satisfied in a relationship. They don't have to duck out of society. They don't have to run out of society. All right. You got the last word.
Oh, thank you guys for having me on, and I gotta admit, this was a very entertaining experience. And to address what the guy in the muscle shirt had said, I said that the government structure was for children with their parents, and after that is an expectation that adults will act like adults. And closing statements is, no, MGTOW is not about anarchy. It is not, ask each individual one, they'll tell you something different, and I would like to emphasize that I do not represent that, anarchy does not represent that. And, yeah. Good times.
Okay, thank you for participating. You're the only MGTOW that had the balls to step up to debate us. We got to give you that much credit. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
I'm here for murder, kidnapping, robbery, armed robbery, conspiracy. When we got sexual desires, who do you think we get? And don't tell me each other.
See, because I don't like nothing in the first place, and I don't like you.
You got your best shot, man. One punch. Punch me in my face. Then it's my turn. Now punch.
Man, get that fucking camera out my face. I told you to cut it off.